Look at this. What about this? We all love it. But wait a minute. Are their rights protected? And who is charged with the responsibility of protecting their copyright? We are the Kenya Copyright Board, Kecobo, established under Section 3 of the Copyright Act, Cap 130 of the Laws of Kenya. The mandate of the board is the overall administration and enforcement of copyright and related rights in Kenya with a view to boosting and enhancing wealth and job creation.
Kecobo was formed formally in 2008. The reason why Kecobo had to exist is that Kecobo was going to fulfill the mandate of registration, the mandate of maintaining the legislation, the mandate of advising the government, the mandate of raising awareness, the mandate of really developing a coherent system for the copyright holders to benefit.
Copyright, also known as haki miliki in Swahili, refers to an exclusive bundle of rights granted by the law to authors of literary works, producers of audiovisual works and films, architects, performers, broadcasters, and other creators of literary, musical, artistic, audiovisual, sound recordings, and broadcasts.
Copyright relates to works of art and other creative works. Generally, there is no examination of copyright. They're automatically granted, provided that it meets some minimal qualifications, those being that the work is fixed, in tangible form, that the work has some level of originality, and that it falls within the subject matter of copyright.
Copyright protects the expression of an idea from being copied without authority.
In case their work is infringed, first and foremost they give a formal complaint, upon which now the board takes the matter to the next level of trying to investigate to what extent that your right has been infringed.
Our vision and mission are as follows. Vision: to be a world-class agency for the administration and enforcement of copyright and management of traditional knowledge. Mission: to promote the growth of the creative industries through effective administration and enforcement of copyright for socio-economic development in Kenya.
This board was established by under Section 5 of the Kenya Copyright Act of 2001. The functions are highlighted under Section 3 of that legislation.
The major function of the Kenya Copyright Board includes licensing and supervision of the collective management organization as provided under the Act, prosecution of copyright cases, inspection and enforcement actions, managing legislation on copyright, registering copyright to create a repository of traditional knowledge and traditional cultural expression, resolving disputes arising from traditional knowledge and traditional cultural expression, advising the government on copyright issues, offering advice to the public on copyright law, training awareness and raising advocacy on copyright matters, creating and maintaining a database on copyright works in Kenya, administering the anti-piracy security device, ensuring the protection of traditional knowledge and traditional cultural expression.
We have under that the power to arrest, the power to prosecute, and the power to oversight collective management organization that represents artists and collects royalties on their behalf.
Creatives around the country should register their copyright works because then it helps them protect their works against infringement.
Kecobo works hand in hand with a number of stakeholders who help us to achieve our said role These stakeholders include creative authors such as composers, literary authors, and visual artists, producers of creative works, government, industry organizations, collective management organizations, media, schools, tertiary institutions and research organizations, users of copyright works, custodians of traditional knowledge and traditional cultural expressions, and enforcement agencies.
As a music publisher, which is what FAT-IP is, we are a stakeholder in music. We hold that part of publishing, and as a stakeholder that means that we have an interest in ensuring that the industry is equitably monetized and it favors us all. So our relationship with the Kenya Copyright Board is that they regulate us, and two, they work towards we work together to build a good music industry for Kenya.
Kecobo has run quite a number of workshops, and we continue to every year with subsectors. For example, the film sector, the musicians. We're consistently and continuously keeping in touch with them and enhancing training with them.
Kecobo plays a very crucial role for artists in general, and to a certain extent the government needs to look at additional funding for Kecobo so that Kecobo has its presence across the country in all 47 counties.
Registration of copyright works facilitates the implementation of the anti-piracy security device, acts as a public record of authors by registering copyright works.
In the first case, copyright registration is optional. It's not mandatory to register your work. However, when you register your work, you stand a better chance in case where the infringement occurs, because you'll be able to use that registration certificate to be able to prove that this is your work, that you have registered with the board.
Registering your copyright has a positive effect because then it helps you exploit your works. It helps you, once you've registered, it's easier to license it, it's easier to exploit it, it's easier to sell it actually to other people.
Kenya is a member of the World Trade Organization, WTO. The WTO treaty includes trade-related aspects of intellectual property, TRIPS, agreement that defines new international standards of intellectual property. The TRIPS agreement adopts the minimum standards of the Berne Convention except for minimum changes.
The primary copyright treaty is known as the Berne Convention. It's well over 100 years old, and it essentially says that all Berne country member states must give what's called national treatment to copyright holders. So your copyright would be effective in any other Berne member country. Unlike patents or even trademarks where you need to go and register those in those individual countries, copyright would be recognized outside of Kenya because of that Berne Convention.
The Berne Treaty, this is the one that established the minimum standards for copyrights in the world. So wherever you go, every law you will find globally will be referring first to the Berne Treaty of 1882. So Kenya is a signatory and is ratified and is in compliance with it. The second treaty that we have is really, there are two. We call them the WIPO copyright treaties. So this is WIPO copyright treaty of 1996 and the WIPO phonographic and performance treaty of 1996. Both of them are called WIPO internet treaties rather. So these are treaties that now was trying to bring the Berne Treaty into the internet era, trying to fit the principles that are in Berne into the digital environment.
Copyright protection is envisaged to play an important part in the achievement of Kenya's Vision 2030. Its contribution of copyright to the Kenyan economy is 5.3%, with 4.4% being contribution from core copyright industry.
In terms of the economy, I would really say it could be number one. But there are people in this country who've made a life from music.
In very many ways, we've seen great strides being achieved in that now people are aware of copyright. Even music users are becoming aware of copyright, and many places are beginning to pay for the use of music.
The requirements for registrations are: the work must be original authorship. It must not be copied. The work must be in tangible form, including digital forms, for example, CDs, books, music cassettes, etc. 2 copies of the work submitted with application, a duly filled, signed and commissioned registration form.
When you're doing copyright, you can be able to commercialize your copyright in the sense that it's a property. So when you are doing commercial transactions, the law of contract comes in.
There are several rights that fall under copyright. They are: 1. Economic rights. These are rights to reproduce any material, adapt or translate, distribute to the public by way of sale, rent, lease, hire, loan and importation. Right to broadcast in whole or part of the work, communicate the work to the public and perform the work in the public. 2. Moral rights. This entitles the author to claim authorship of the work and object to distortion or mutilation and prejudicial to his honor or reputation. Number 3. Related rights. Rights of producers of sound recordings, broadcasters' rights and performers' rights.
As the copyright board, there are so many places that music users do not want to pay for the music. Although this is not the main part, the Kenya Copyright Board is the regulator of collecting management organizations.
Copyright protection depends on authorship and their ownership. In Kenya, copyright is protected for the life of the author plus 50 years after his or her death. We encourage copyright owners or authors to comply to avoid criminal liability by obtaining an authentication sticker that is issued only to owners or licensees of sound recordings and audiovisual work when they register with Kecobo.
When the owner of the copyright dies, the copyright that subsists in his work is transferred to his legal representative. Actually, depending on what the author wanted, how he wanted his work to be used.
Although this is the expectation, it is not always easy to implement the expectation of the Copyright Act. At times, some industry players do not cooperate, hence triggering enforcement of the law envisaged through the Act.
Sometimes people break the law because they don't know, and sometimes we could avoid enforcement and prosecution of people by giving them awareness.
The board has established an enforcement department which consists of the legal and enforcement units. The legal unit currently consists of legal counsels who have been appointed as copyright prosecutors under Section 43(1) of Cap 130 and police officers from the Kenya Police appointed under Section 39.
We usually prosecute copyright cases with the assistance of the legal department within the organization. So I usually go for lanes with my officers from the office to enforce this law.
Where we have cases of copyright infringement, we organize together with the enforcement department documents that are supposed to be presented before the court, and then we represent the state in the court where copyright infringement is concerned.
Infringement of copyright occurs if a person other than the author or person authorized by him does reproduction, translation, adaptation, performance, sale or hire of the work.
We sensitize the public and advise them to buy genuine copies which are not infringed. So wherever members of the public can go to a shop or anywhere where we have infringement, they should insist on genuine copies wherever they want to buy.
The author of infringed work may pursue civil action against the infringing person and is entitled under the Act to 1. Injunctions to stop the infringing action. 2. Damages for losses suffered. 3. Seizure of infringing copies.
The enforcement department in Kecobo is like a police station. For whatever is done is what is done in a police station. So this one is an exhibit store. All the 16 goons are stored here and clearly labeled and marked.
We are committed to serve and protect your creativity. For more information, log on to www.copyright.go.ke, info@copyright.go.ke. Kenya Copyright Board, protecting copyright, encouraging creativity.